In November 2014, a 47-year-old experienced hiker named Kenny Veach walked into the Nevada desert and vanished without a trace. What searchers found 12 days later would send chills down anyone's spine and raise more questions than answers. His last public message was haunting. "I'm going back to find that cave. If I don't return, don't come looking for me." This is the true story of the M Cave mystery, a case that has baffled investigators for over a decade and spawned countless theories about government cover-ups, alien encounters, and the dangerous secrets hidden in America's most classified military zone. Kenny Veach wasn't your typical weekend warrior. This Las Vegas resident was a seasoned desert explorer who'd spent years hiking the harsh terrain around Nevada's most restricted areas. His YouTube channel, Snakebimchi, documented his adventures through some of the Southwest's most remote locations. Kenny had a particular fascination with the area around Nellis Air Force Base, home to the infamous Area 51. While most people stayed far away from these heavily secured military zones, Kenny saw them as the ultimate hiking challenge. In October 2014, Kenny posted what seemed like an ordinary comment on a YouTube video about Area 51. But this comment would trigger a chain of events that would consume his life and ultimately lead to his disappearance. He wrote, "That ain't nothing. I am a long-distance hiker. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me." For a man who'd explored hundreds of caves and never backed down from a challenge, this was shocking. Kenny Veach, afraid? Something in that M-shaped cave had triggered a primal fear response that sent him running. But the internet had other plans. Kenny's comment exploded across social media. Hundreds of replies flooded in, with people demanding proof, calling him a liar, and challenging him to go back. The pressure was relentless. Comments like, "Show us the cave," "Prove it or you're lying," and "Go back if you're not a coward," filled his inbox. At first, Kenny tried to brush off the criticism. He explained that he'd been hiking for years and had never experienced anything like the vibrations at the M Cave. He described the sensation as similar to standing too close to powerful electrical equipment, but amplified throughout his entire body. Despite his experience and usual fearlessness, something about that cave had triggered every survival instinct he possessed. But the internet mob wouldn't let it go. Day after day, the comments poured in. People called him a fraud, a liar, and worse. The pressure began to eat away at Kenny's reputation as a serious explorer. His pride as a desert veteran was being questioned publicly, and for a man who'd built his identity around conquering the unforgiving Nevada wilderness, this was unbearable. Finally, Kenny snapped. In a follow-up comment that would seal his fate, he wrote, "I'll be going back to look for the M Cave. I won't be long. If I don't return, don't come looking for me." Those words would haunt everyone who knew Kenny, because they proved to be prophetic in the most chilling way possible. On November 10, 2014, Kenny Veach set out on what would be his final hike. He drove his Honda Ridgeline pickup truck to the trailhead near Nellis Air Force Base, the same area where he'd encountered the mysterious M Cave months earlier. He carried his usual gear: water, food, camping supplies, and his cell phone. What he didn't know was that this would be the last time anyone would see him alive. Kenny's girlfriend, Shireen Pilgrim, wasn't initially concerned when he didn't return that evening. Kenny often stayed out overnight during his desert expeditions, and she trusted his experience completely. But as hours turned into days with no word, her worry began to grow. Kenny was meticulous about checking in, especially after longer hikes. His silence was completely out of character. By November 12th, Shireen knew something was terribly wrong. She contacted the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, but their response was frustratingly limited. Since Kenny had disappeared in an area near federal military installations, jurisdiction issues complicated the search efforts. The vast desert terrain made traditional search methods nearly impossible, and the proximity to classified military zones meant that many areas were completely off-limits to civilian searchers. What happened next would become the most controversial aspect of the entire case. According to official reports, search teams scoured the desert for days without finding any trace of Kenny or his equipment. The harsh Nevada desert had seemingly swallowed him whole. But then, 12 days after Kenny's disappearance, searchers made a discovery that would change everything. On November 22, 2014, search teams found Kenny's cell phone. But it wasn't lying on the ground or tucked away in a cave as you might expect. The phone was discovered at the bottom of a vertical mine shaft, approximately 20 feet deep. The location was several miles from where Kenny had parked his truck, in an area that required significant hiking to reach. The condition of the phone and the circumstances of its discovery immediately raised red flags. Here's where the story takes a truly disturbing turn. When investigators examined the phone, they found that it had been damaged but was still partially functional. However, the most shocking discovery wasn't the phone itself, but what was missing from it. According to multiple sources familiar with the case, the phone's memory had been completely wiped. Every photo, every video, every text message that might have provided clues about Kenny's final hours had been erased. The official explanation was that the phone had been damaged by the fall and exposure to the elements. But technology experts who examined the case found this explanation highly suspicious. Modern smartphones are designed to retain data even after significant physical damage, and the specific type of memory corruption found on Kenny's phone was more consistent with intentional wiping than accidental damage. But the phone discovery raised even more questions. How did it end up at the bottom of a mine shaft? If Kenny had fallen into the shaft, where was his body? The shaft had been thoroughly searched, and aside from the phone, it was empty. Some theorists suggested that Kenny might have dropped the phone while looking into the shaft, but this explanation didn't account for the phone's condition or the missing data. The investigation took another strange turn when drone footage emerged from the area around the mine shaft. Independent searchers, frustrated by the limited official response, had begun using drones to survey the vast desert terrain. What they captured was both fascinating and deeply unsettling. The drone footage showed not just the mine shaft where Kenny's phone was found, but also revealed the incredible complexity of the underground tunnel system in the area. The desert around Nellis Air Force Base is honeycombed with abandoned mine shafts, some dating back to the gold rush era of the late 1800s. Many of these shafts connect to extensive underground tunnel networks that stretch for miles beneath the surface. The drone footage revealed that the area where Kenny disappeared contained dozens of these interconnected passages, creating a vast underground maze that would be virtually impossible to search completely. More disturbing was what the drone footage revealed about the surface terrain. The cameras captured clear evidence of recent human activity in areas that should have been completely untouched. Tire tracks, footprints, and even what appeared to be equipment staging areas were visible in the footage. This suggested that Kenny's disappearance had attracted attention from parties unknown, possibly connected to the sensitive military installations in the area. The drone operators also captured footage of the infamous M Cave area, or at least what they believed to be the location Kenny had described. Using his YouTube comments and GPS coordinates he'd shared with fellow hikers, they identified several cave entrances that matched Kenny's description. The footage showed that many of these caves had been recently disturbed, with evidence of fresh excavation and what appeared to be concrete barriers installed at some entrances. This discovery fueled theories that Kenny had stumbled upon something he wasn't supposed to see. The timing of the cave modifications, occurring shortly after Kenny's disappearance, struck many as too coincidental to ignore. Had Kenny discovered something connected to the classified military activities in the area? Was his disappearance the result of getting too close to government secrets? The government cover-up theory gained traction when researchers discovered that several other hikers had reported similar experiences in the same area. Multiple witnesses came forward claiming they'd also encountered caves that caused unexplained physical sensations, including vibrations, nausea, and overwhelming feelings of dread. Some reported seeing unusual lights or hearing strange sounds emanating from underground locations. Even more compelling were reports from former military personnel who claimed knowledge of underground testing facilities in the area. These whistleblowers, speaking anonymously, described secret government projects involving experimental aircraft, advanced weapons testing, and even more exotic research. According to these sources, the M-cave Kenny discovered might have been an entrance to one of these classified facilities. The military connection became even more suspicious when investigators discovered that Kenny's disappearance coincided with a period of increased activity at Nellis Air Force Base. Flight records showed unusual patterns of aircraft movements during the weeks surrounding Kenny's disappearance, including nighttime flights of unidentified aircraft. Local residents reported seeing strange lights and hearing unexplained sounds coming from the desert during this same period. But the most chilling piece of evidence came from Kenny's own YouTube activity in the weeks before his disappearance. Analysis of his channel showed that he'd been increasingly paranoid about being followed or watched during his hikes. In his final videos, he mentioned feeling like he was being observed and even claimed to have seen unmarked vehicles in areas where no civilians should have been present. Kenny's girlfriend Shireen provided additional context that painted a disturbing picture of his final weeks. She revealed that Kenny had been receiving strange phone calls at all hours, with callers who would hang up without speaking. He'd also mentioned finding evidence that someone had been through his camping gear, though nothing appeared to be missing. These incidents had made Kenny increasingly nervous, but his determination to find the M-cave had overridden his caution. The case took yet another bizarre turn when independent investigators began receiving their own mysterious interference. Several researchers who'd been actively investigating Kenny's disappearance reported break-ins at their homes, with only materials related to the case being disturbed. Others claimed their computers had been hacked and files related to Kenny's disappearance deleted. The pattern of intimidation suggested that someone with significant resources was working to suppress information about the case. Despite these obstacles, the investigation continued, driven largely by online communities and amateur detectives who refused to let Kenny's story die. Their efforts uncovered a pattern of disappearances in the same area dating back decades. At least 6 other hikers had vanished in the desert around Nellis Air Force Base since the 1990s, all under similarly mysterious circumstances. Like Kenny, these individuals were experienced desert hikers who knew the terrain well and wouldn't likely have fallen victim to ordinary hazards. The similarities between the cases were striking. All the missing hikers were solo adventurers who preferred exploring remote areas away from established trails. Several had expressed interest in caves or underground formations before their disappearances. Most disturbing of all, in the few cases where any evidence was found, it was always discovered in circumstances that raised more questions than answers. The drone footage that emerged from the search efforts revealed another crucial piece of the puzzle. The cameras captured what appeared to be a systematic effort to seal cave entrances throughout the area. Concrete barriers, metal gates, and even rock slides that appeared artificially created were documented at dozens of locations. This massive undertaking would have required significant resources and coordination, suggesting involvement by a well-funded organization. The timing of this cave-sealing operation was particularly suspicious. Satellite imagery analysis showed that most of the barriers were installed during the months immediately following Kenny's disappearance. The speed and scale of the operation indicated advanced planning and suggested that Kenny's discovery of the M-Cave had triggered a predetermined response protocol. As the investigation deepened, researchers uncovered evidence of a much larger pattern of government secrecy in the area. Historical documents revealed that the desert around Nellis Air Force Base had been used for classified military testing since the 1950s. Projects ranging from nuclear weapons testing to experimental aircraft development had left their mark on the landscape, creating a maze of underground facilities and restricted areas. The proximity to Area 51 added another layer of complexity to the case. While most of the speculation about alien technology at Area 51 is likely exaggerated, the facility is definitely used for testing classified aircraft and weapon systems. The possibility that Kenny had stumbled upon an entrance to this underground network couldn't be dismissed, especially given the extreme response his disappearance had triggered. The investigation also revealed that Kenny wasn't the first person to report unusual sensations near cave entrances in the area. Military personnel, both active and retired, had reported similar experiences during training exercises and patrol missions. The consistency of these reports suggested that whatever was causing the vibrations and fear responses was a real phenomenon, not merely psychological. 10 years after Kenny Veach walked into the Nevada desert and vanished, his case remains officially unsolved. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department maintains that they found no evidence of foul play, but their investigation was hampered by jurisdictional issues and the remote location of Kenny's disappearance. The FBI has acknowledged receiving information about the case but has never confirmed whether they conducted their own investigation. The drone footage and independent research conducted over the past decade have painted a picture of a man who may have discovered something he wasn't supposed to see. Whether that discovery was a classified military facility, an illegal operation, or something even more extraordinary, it appears to have cost Kenny his life. The systematic effort to seal cave entrances throughout the area and the intimidation faced by investigators suggests that powerful interests are working to keep the truth buried. Today, Kenny's YouTube channel remains active, maintained by friends and family who refuse to let his story be forgotten. The comments section has become a memorial where fellow hikers share their own experiences and theories about what might have happened to Kenny. His final video, posted just days before his disappearance, shows him preparing for what he called the most important hike of my life. The M-Cave that Kenny described has never been officially found, despite extensive searching by both professional and amateur investigators. Whether it was sealed permanently or simply remains hidden in the vast Nevada desert, the mystery continues to fascinate those who believe that Kenny Veach discovered something that someone desperately wanted to keep secret. His disappearance serves as a chilling reminder that in the shadow of America's most classified military installations, asking the wrong questions can have deadly consequences. The case of Kenny Veach stands as one of the most compelling unsolved mysteries in modern American history. A man driven by curiosity and challenged by internet trolls walked into the desert to prove a point and never returned. What he found in that M-shaped cave may have been the discovery of a lifetime, but it also appears to have been the last thing he ever saw. In the unforgiving Nevada desert, where secrets run as deep as the abandoned mine shafts that the landscape, Kenny Veach's story reminds us that some mysteries are more dangerous than others, and some caves are meant to stay sealed forever.